Lindsay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, we appreciate it. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I know that like right away. we're gonna have to change it. Thank you.
How's the ice cream go?
Back. You'll have to set it right. I was like, "Please, but it is like that." Is it me? Yeah. I said that. Lemon cheesecake. Full on it. So that's why. Well, the mirror.
That was pretty good. I do think my favorite.
You did it. Click join them. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
That's it. I guess I got it.
Yeah, and just, you know.
That's a good idea.
You are. We're official.
Okay, sounds good. So if you wrap, what you can do. If you make it cross 63rd on the same thing.
Ready?
Ready?
I'm all ready. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We'll call to order the city council regular business meeting for Thursday, June 18th, 2026. It is 6 P.M. Kaylin, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Borjon.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Cool. Councilmember Meineke.
Here.
Councilmember Porter. Here. Mayor Phillips.
I'm here as well. We do have a quorum, so we'll move on. Item 2 is pledge of allegiance. Would you please rise and say the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item 3 is approval of the agenda. I'd like to move, I'm gonna move item 8H to come in front of 8A tonight. Would anybody like to move any of the consent agenda items to the regular agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Motion. Okay. Motion by Brown, seconded by Meineke. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, opposed, same. That motion carries. Item 4, Superintendent of Schools for the Norwalk Community School District, Sean Holloway, is here to talk about bond referendum that's coming up.
For having me there.
Thanks for coming.
I appreciate the council's time this evening to just allow me to go through the school district's bond referendum. Not sure I should face the crowd or face you guys. I'm not sure what is proper protocol there, but
You can face us.
it-
So they can hear.
perfect. As I go through this, you know, if there's any questions from any of you or the audience, I'd be welcome to take those. So what the school district's looking at is a bond referendum. The election day is November 3rd of 2026. And I'll just go through what's on the ballot. But what we're asking voters to vote on come November is $65 million general obligation bond issue. And so the projects that are on our list I'm probably going to go a little out of order here, but I like to kind of give our bookend projects first. So what I handed out to you on one side kind of shows the timeline. And then the other side, just gives you a little bit more information. And so really what, our largest project is the next elementary building, but that's also one of the later projects on the timeline. So for the elementary, we're budgeting right around $42.5 million. So I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through. The other bookend project, which would be the first project on the really the timeline, is the new transportation building. You may know, you may not know that the city of Norwalk has leased transportation building space or your public works space to to the school district, and that lease has been in place for quite some time, and it runs out in 2029. And most groups I talk to say, while the school district's growing, the city's also growing. All of you are aware of that, and so you've been great landlords to us, but at the end of the day, you want your space back, and we appreciate that, right? So the district has purchased land for a transportation building. So if we're at the Public Works building and we're facing north, we purchase the land directly west of the Public Works building. So we'll still be neighbors, I guess, and should work out as long as the referendum passes. But we're budgeting right around $10 million for that. It's about 30 acres that sits there. We plan to use the front half of that, for the transportation building. So again, those are kind of the bookends, right? And when you think about $65 million, I've just talked about the vast majority of that, right around 55 million of it. So then some smaller projects in there. We have about $5.5 million for HVAC renovation. That would be at our Oviatt, Lakewood, and our secondary campus to bring that HVAC up, up to I'll say today's code. So most of those units are well over the 20-year lifespan, and will need to be replaced. The next, what I would say, smaller project in terms of dollars and cents is safety and security. So we're budgeting right around $1.5 million, $2 million for safety and security for our buildings. And really that's kind of a threefold process for us. So the first part of that is an AI weapons detection software to work with our current camera system. That'd be monitored by a third-party vendor 24/7. And so really, as we go through all of these safety security items, what we're trying to do is just create more time that it takes a bad person to get in our building, or decrease the amount of time it takes for local law enforcement to be notified of that bad person, right? So the AI weapons detection would decrease the time that our people would be notified of an event like that. Then the second piece of that is some window shields for all of our buildings. And so really, again, that's just trying to delay someone from breaking through a window, through a door, those types of things. Just trying to give us more time to react and get the plan in motion. Then the third part, I laugh at myself because I can't ever remember the official name. So even in our presentation, we just call them floor anchored barriers or barricades. But I always say, when you go to Target and the big red balls that are sitting in front of the doors, right? Like, they're not just there for looks, they're also there to prevent a car from driving through the front door. And so we would have barricades like that, obviously strategically placed at entrances to all of our buildings. Again, just to try to delay, a negative event. So we have the bookend projects, transportation building. I just talked about, what I feel are 100% net necessities in terms of the HVAC and the safety security. Talked a little bit about the elementary, and I'll come back to that in more detail. And then the other projects you'll see on the list really in my mind have to, on the timeline, have to follow, the elementary building. And I say that because, you know, while every project's important, that elementary building, you know, we have to, ensure that we have dollars to do that. So, so some activity, projects and some parking then would be, if you've been to the baseball softball field, you know that just received a makeover, right? So both fields are artificial turf, new concession stand, bathrooms. So project would be then phase 2 of that, which would be an indoor hitting facility for baseball and softball. Another activities project would be artificial turf practice field, and then accompany parking around those areas. So again, all are important for us and all are important for our students at varying levels of our system. But again, that elementary building, you know, has to take priority in my opinion. So when we talk about the elementary building, last year, our school board members, board of directors, spent a considerable time, you know, debating pros and cons of staying grade alike, meaning all of our 3rd graders go to the same building, all of our 5th graders go to the same building, or going to a neighborhood school concept. And the grade alike, I would say, is a little unique to Norwalk. I mean, there's a few other places that have that, but that has served us, I think, as a community really well for a long time. There were some equity issues within buildings that I think played a part in it, but ultimately our board of directors decided to stay grade alike. So when you think about what our grade configuration would be then, really for us, our capacity issues, where we're going to see the first, you know, problems or concerns with capacity, fall in our Oviatt building and then on our secondary campus. And so, the new elementary would, be a solution for both of those. So starting kind of with our youngest learners, the Oviatt Elementary, which currently houses, pre-K, kindergarten and 1st grade, would then be pre-K, transitional kindergarten and kindergarten. Orchard Hills then would go 1-2. The new elementary building would be 3-4. Lakewood would be 5-6. So we'd be pulling 6th grade off of the secondary campus, again, to alleviate that, the capacity constraints there. Middle school would then turn into 7-8, and then the high school would stay, as is. When we think about the new elementary building, I would say it will be built with the same concept that Orchard Hills was built. And so while it won't look identical to it, I will tell you that as a district, there's a ton about the Orchard Hills building that we like. And so we're gonna push those same qualities into the new building. But really what I'm talking about is the new building, like Orchard Hills, will be built to be utilized down the road as a neighborhood school. So some of the classrooms will have bathrooms in it for our youngest learners, and it'll be ready to go, you know, flexibility wise, if the district ever chooses to ultimately go neighborhood schools. So when we think about like our Lakewood building, that's not the case. We don't have, you know, spaces currently for kindergarten type learners, right? And so that would have, you know, that was part of that decision that would have had to been retrofit there. And then really our Oviatt building, just number of square feet per classroom is considerably less than what it is in Orchard Hills or Lakewood. And so, you know, that was some of the concern in terms of that building as well. Talk a little bit about our levy rate. So, you know, the natural question, I think, for anyone is how do we go about funding this project, right? In this referendum. So since 2013, the district has maximized our debt service levy at $4.05. And, you know, I think that's a pretty common practice for growing school districts, right? And so For Norwalk, we've been in a position where we've had to go to the voters about every 7 years and ask for them to vote on a general obligation bond. And so our debt service levy then is ultimately how the taxpayers pay for those projects, right? And so that 405 has been maxed out since 2013. And I always like to start this off, and I'm going to tell you this is not an apples to apples comparison, but the strategy that the district has used over the years, I think, is pretty similar to what a lot of homeowners utilize, right? So the Holloways are in debt. We have a mortgage. I have a truck payment. Angie has a car payment, and there's only so much money each month, right? And you know, so if we can, we like to pay extra on any one of those three things, right? Well, Angie's vehicle has 0% interest, so seems silly for us to pay extra on that versus a house or my truck, right? And so we've just tried to prepay down our debt as fast as we can as a couple. Well, that's essentially what we've done as a school district, right? And it's, again, it's not that simple, but as a district, we've, you know, really worked hard prior to me being here and then continuing on, you know, to pay down that debt at a faster rate, because we know as a growing district, then we're going to have to go out and borrow more dollars. So we will ultimately utilize that same 405. And so really you can think of that as just a continuation on that tax that's been around since 2013. Went through a lot. Questions from the council?
I have one.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, I should have prepped you for this, but can you quantify or let us know the effect on property tax levy that the Microsoft data center has that's in Warren County?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna probably give you a great answer there because I don't have the exact numbers, but what I've heard a number of times is like when you look at our competition, Jim, or the impact, right? Like that project would not have been able to happen without the tax valuation from that data center coming on.
Yeah.
You know, so really what you know, we're heavy residential. Again, I'm preaching to the choir when I look at this group, right?
Kid rich.
Hey, kid rich, right? I tell people we love kids, but we also love buildings that don't have kids in them, you know?
Yeah.
So whether that be homeowners or you know, commercial, but yeah, I mean, what ultimately happens, right, is as our tax valuation goes up, then that would either allow us as a district to go out and bond more dollars, or we'd be able to borrow that $65 million at a lower levy rate.
Okay.
Right, and so, you know, for example, I think a common question is, well, why not a high school? You know, I've gotten that 4 or 5 times. Like we as a district don't have the bonding capacity. We can't borrow enough money to build a new high school. You know, so, you know, you talk about like that data center or, you know, any commercial development, right, that adds, you know, to our tax base is ultimately good for us as a school district, but then really also for our taxpayers, right? Because, you know, because then that brings down the overall levy rate. So
a new school is 55 million, a new high school is 100 million?
yeah, you know, I said 100 million, you know, earlier this week on the podcast with Luke, and, you know, my board president, you know, said, well, that might actually be more like 150. But yeah, I mean, Adel right now is in a project and it's well over, you know, well over $100 million. So I mean, just as an example, like Orchard Hills, I think was right around 25 million. I mean, so just between then and now, you know, is kind of that inflation that you're looking at. So overall tax rate, I'll just hit on this real quick. So in 2016-17 for the school district, that was at $20.48. Currently for 26-27, we're at 1657. So I think the district has consistently tried to bring that down when we could. You know, and again, if I had the visual for you, you would see that the 405 is steady through that entire process. And so for us, really, then it's more of just our general fund type levy that keeps coming down. And honestly, that's I mean, kudos to the city, right? Because you know, to what I said just a little bit ago, that's that example of as the tax valuation on our tax base has increased, that allows us as a district to, you know, bring that tax rate down as well. So, other questions? Question?
Send you a question. You have minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything on the timeline about, like, do you have an estimate of potentially when neighborhood would come up in conversation again?
In terms of neighborhood schools? Yeah, so, I mean, I'm gonna talk here like well into the future, right? So, this would be past my time, and so, you know, whoever the next person is, or the following person is maybe, might have a different idea, but I would say our current plan would be this next elementary building, and then a new junior high building, and then the next elementary, and that next elementary, then I think the current board would say would force the hand on neighborhood schools.
So at that rate, like you're 21 years from now, then if you say kind of your typical 777.
I think that's, you know, a pretty good plan. And so again, you know, for us, that elementary building, you know, probably has kids in it in, you know, that 20, 30, 31 time range. You know, so then I think you could think, you know, 15 to 20 years out from there.
So I know that there's some talk about better trafficking of, like, vehicle traffic with the schools and having multiple kids. I don't personally know, but I have friends who have multiple drop-offs at different schools. I guess for the next 21 years in that example, how closely, I guess, or how much are you guys depending on us to take into account the growth and what we're trying to do with our roads and limiting that traffic, I guess? Do you guys, I guess this might be a question for you there too, maybe, or some, anyone that can answer, but I guess, do we work? I'm just thinking, like, the traffic's already bad. If we keep growing and we keep adding 1, 2, 3 more schools before then going to the new stuff out, like, we probably take that into consideration for the roads and any.
Yeah, and what I would say is, the city and school has quarterly meetings. So, you know, between Jake Lowell, our business manager, myself, Richard Sleeth, who's our building grounds, Mayor Phillips, you know, Luke, a couple council members typically come, right? So, that's, I think, our vehicle for having those types of conversations. You know, I mean, I can tell you just yesterday or the day before, I received an email from Luke and talking about traffic around one of our schools and, you know, wanting to make sure the school's involved in that decision or at least those conversations, right? So, I mean, I will, a little biased because I'm part of this, but the relationship that the school and the city has and our police and our fire have, I'm not sure it could be a lot better, you know? So there's good people in all of those spots and we work really well together. Good communication. I'm telling you, we don't, you know, there's times we don't agree, but we, you know, the communication's open, and so, setting how that would. Well, yes.
So let me put on my old hat, my old school board hat. There are reasons to do grade alike configuration. The school district needs to do what's best for the kids, not necessarily what's easiest for the parents. By having the grade alike configuration, the teachers are able to collaborate better. They can address student needs better. They can train better. So that's one of the reasons why.
I think
Why
it
we have-
maximizes our teacher resources, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you know, at the end of the day, then We have even class sizes. There's definitely pros and cons.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we could have a debate and you could tell me all kinds of really, you know, positive reasons to be neighborhood schools also. You know, I mean, that essentially was what our board of directors went through last year because we for sure know that traffic and parent pickup and drop off is one of the main deterrents of it.
So putting on my city hat, what we did with Orchard Hills to provide the amount of stacking that's there is fantastic. There's a good deal of stacking there that you can get parents in line and in and out. Right. And while there are some issues that have arisen because at Orchard Hills, you know, I think we have some plans that once they come up on CIP, that will be addressed. I think there are plans coming up. Wayne, correct me if I'm wrong, as far as adding a turn lane or something or two at Lakewood Elementary to help with stacking there as well.
Yep, correct, July 1.
So we're trying to make changes on the city side to make it easier for the parents.
Yeah.
I would also-
Great things to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I would also add that, you know, like one of the, I always tell people it's hard to buy land that's not for sale, which is, you know, ultimately.
Never
what we're trying to
write a
do.
letter, write a dear seller letter.
But having two access points, is awful helpful, you know. The Orchard Hills for sure has the most stacking, like the mayor said, and is probably our most congested, along with Lakewood, right? You know, Oviatt is the oldest but then traffic can flow 2 or 3 different ways, and I'm always amazed that they don't have more issues there. So, you know, having 2 access points on the new building will be really important as well.
So maybe follow up on the thing, buying land that's not for sale, like, you brought up parking for baseball and softball complex?
Yep.
Is there thought about, like, high school parking, I think is pretty full, especially when there's events and parking? Is there thoughts around parking? I just thought of this as we were talking. I know there's that land across the road from the stadium. I don't know who owns
We
that.
would call that 528 Center Street.
Yep.
Yep.
I don't know if that's available, but like, has there been thought about additional parking?
It's theirs.
That is,
So we
okay.
own that.
Okay.
Yep. So that I would say is all in the conversation. You know, if the money would be available, what at least I would like to do is move our tennis courts to a different location and then utilize that parking. I mean, because at some point when that building becomes a high school.
Yep.
That's a pretty wide spread there, and to me, that's just a location where kids could utilize that. School parking, but then, you know, baseball, softball.
Land
be
stuff, yep,
there, and
yep.
so, yes, I mean, parking is always part of what, you know, is rolling through the thought process. Open it up to these guys or?
Sure, if you want to.
Any questions from the audience? Very good. I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you for giving me the floor and letting me go through that. So.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for coming.
Thank
Right.
you.
See you later. All right, item 5, proclamations. We have a Park and Rec Month proclamation for the month of July, and then I'm gonna come down there and read this one, so. I got That's the fire department be here tonight because of this, so, this is proclamation dated June 18th, 2026. It says, recognizing community response and support following the May 8th, 2026 apartment fire. So whereas on May 8th, 2026, residents of Norwalk experienced a devastating apartment building fire that displaced and impacted multiple families and individuals. And whereas the safety and well-being of our residents were immediately protected through the courageous and professional response of the Norwalk Fire Department and the Norwalk Police Department. And whereas community members, volunteers, churches, nonprofit organizations, local businesses quickly united to coordinate assistance efforts, including donations, temporary housing, supply collection and distribution, transportation, pet assistance, and other critical support services. And whereas the city of Norwalk wishes to recognize the outstanding generosity and leadership demonstrated by Fairway Stores, the Norwalk Area Ministerial Association, and Angie Kroll, We Lift Job Search Center, and Sue Wilson, Great Young Chevrolet, and many community members who selflessly gave their time, resources, and compassion to those to assist those affected. And whereas this collective response reflected the strength, kindness, and unity that defines the Norwalk community. Now, therefore, I, Tom Phillips, Mayor of the City of Norwalk, do hereby express sincere appreciation and gratitude to all the first responders, organizations, businesses, volunteers, and residents who assisted in the response and recovery efforts following the May 8th, 2026 apartment fire. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Norwalk, Iowa to be affixed this 18th day of June 2026. I asked these guys to come here today. You guys, I'd like you guys to realize the professionalism of the staff that you have. They're being able to provide equipment to these guys so that they can do their job. It's just what I heard from them. I'm gonna save you guys from talking. Is that after they got dispatched and they were on their ways, the police department was actually there at the fire and saw flames and smoke. They were able to quickly call Westcom and elevate the fire to a alarm at that point in time, I believe. It was working first alarm. Okay, working first alarm, which also dispatched West Des Moines to our location as well, right? Yep. And then as the fire progressed, after they got there, they saw what was going on. They were able to call Westcom again and get Indianola, Carlisle, North Warren. West Des Moines was already dispatched, I think, as well, to that location as well.
And Urbandale.
And Urbandale. So the other thing we have to realize is that we have a great chief who is facilitating the training of our firefighters. They were able to get on site, and I think there were a bunch of people inside the building working the fire, and then they realized, from what I was told, they realized that, okay, we need to get back outside the building and start instant command and get that going. To be able to do that, realize that in the middle, and so that they could more effectively handle the situation at hand was great for them to do. I appreciate that. And finally, Westcom. Westcom is an added expense for us. Talk to Ed Cool. You can find out why we moved to Westcom when we did, but the benefits that we get from Westcom and having those services is huge. So, and I would encourage city council to talk to these guys to see and police department, police officers to see what we benefit and what the benefit we get is from Westcom. Okay. So thank you guys for being here. We appreciate your work and everything you do.
Thank you. Can we get a picture with you guys?
Sure. I'm short.
Well, that's all right.
You waste up. Yeah. But yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Next on the agenda is welcome of guests and public comment. Thanks for being here tonight, participating in your local government. At this point in time, we open up the dais. Anybody wants to address council for a non-agenda item? We'll give you a 3-minute time limit on that. Realize that we can't take action on those tonight since they aren't on the agenda, and taking action would be a violation of open meetings law. Don't want to do that. Also, if you'd like to comment on any item in the consent agenda, now would be the time. So have any takers that want to address council, either here or online? Seeing none, we will move on. Item 7 is the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Brown, seconded by Porter. Caitlin, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Borjon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Porter,
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item 8 is old and new business for consideration, discussion, and possible action. We're going to do H first. It's a first reading of an ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Norwalk, Iowa by amending chapter 136 regarding sidewalk regulations. So we had a resident address council at our last meeting about the replacement of their sidewalk. The new requirement is to increase the width of the sidewalks from 4 feet to 5 feet. And this is due to ADA requirements. However, his perfectly good driveway has the sidewalk area set at 4 feet. And current requirement is to remove that existing sidewalk and remove the approach, and then replace it with a new approach and a 5-foot sidewalk. So in some places around town, Mr. Cook's residence being one of them, this could cause the slope of the approach to be pretty steep. This could be a problem in the winter with ice, could possibly be unusable if they have a car that kind of sits slow, like when Gary buys a Corvette sometime. So, Luke, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, so you mentioned the ADA requirements. The ADA doesn't require a 5-foot sidewalk everywhere. We adopted in 2014 a standard 5-foot sidewalk across the city just for consistency standpoint. They normally require a 5-foot by 5-foot square every so often. And the reason for that is to allow for people with disabilities, wheelchairs, those types of things to be able to pass one another or pass someone walking. We can't use driveways for those because they don't meet other ADA requirements. So our solution as a city to that was, let's just have all sidewalks be 5 foot. We've consistently applied that since that came into effect in 2014. We do run into scenarios where folks had been replacing a driveway in an older area of town or replacing an approach where they've asked not to go to 5 foot. We've enforced that in the past of we'd like you to put it at 5 foot. The idea being that incrementally over time, as we go to 5 foot and things are replaced, eventually everything becomes 5 foot and we meet those requirements. The request before you today would be to allow a waiver so that a 4-foot sidewalk could go back in the spot of a existing driveway. That wouldn't be a problem as long as we have 5 foot in other areas, right? Like if we're still kind of meeting the intent of that kind of passing space, I believe is what they call it. So pretty simply, this is just a waiver that would give staff the ability to let those be 4 foot through the driveway in those instances.
And then just for clarification, when you say consistently applied, that is for those people who have come in and requested a permit to be able to.
Correct.
their sidewalk.
Correct.
If
Yeah.
they've done it without. permit,
Yep.
We just don't know.
We've had multiple situations like Mr. Cook's scenario that we've been firm on saying make it 5 foot. And they have when they've permitted them. There are instances where folks bore a sidewalk back over a weekend and we never even knew they did it. And there you go.
What discussion questions does council?
Well, I think it was a really good solution. I liked it. And just that for clarification, too, but it's right in there too, is that if you're tearing out your approach, then you're gonna go 5 foot.
My understanding and maybe and so this might, I guess, maybe need to be tweaked related to that. My understanding of this scenario was we were just replacing the sidewalk through the driveway. And so if you're just replacing the sidewalk to tell someone to go to 5 foot, now they've got to cut their approach or they've got to cut their driveway, and then that messes up the geometry. If someone, usually what we see, most permitting we say is, I'm redoing my whole driveway from the street all the way back. In that situation, I'd have the opinion that I understand that you don't like that there's 5 foot sidewalk there, but there shouldn't be a practical reason why you can't do that because you're replacing everything. The other ones we see are sidewalk and driveway to the house, similar light type thing, or sidewalk and approach. So we took the approach from a staff perspective. If you're doing anything that's moving either one of those other options, we would probably still want that to be 5 foot. However, if you're just replacing the sidewalk through a space, I don't think it makes sense for the city to say, well, guess what? You also have to either remove part of your driveway or remove your approach to be able to accommodate this 5 foot sidewalk. So that's the way the waiver is written now. If I misunderstood the scope of the project that was brought to you guys last meeting, I apologize, I wasn't here, but what was relayed to me by staff was that we were just doing the sidewalk.
Oh, no, I'm fine. I'm just, that's in your.
Right.
ordinance. I'm fine with that. Yeah, I know it was a specific very, so I'm good with it. I just wanted to point that out, that you turn out the whole driveway, you bring the 5 foot.
Okay.
So I just think it's a good solution in general.
Anybody else? Do we have any public comment? Come on up. State your name and address.
Garrett, 1400 Park Hill Drive, Norwalk. My only comment on that also is there anything we can do to ensure that commercials and the city itself starts following the same policy? For example, the fire department, city hall, whatever that building's called, that's a 4 foot sidewalk that was replaced just recently. And it's 4 foot, and right across the street, the dental office is 4 foot. And then the intersections on Cherry Parkway that I think the city did were under 4 foot. They're like 44 inches. And so if the city's doing work, I would really hope that the city's following the policy, and same with commercial.
Yeah, we've had discussion on that. Yes, we're going to start following that policy.
Thanks, Gary.
And then we have something around like cul-de-sacs where they're now optional, right? I think I was talking to Luke about that at one point. Is that true?
They were never actually optional. We had, and you guys want to get into history. I told them I wouldn't talk much. It's not my fault. There was a point in time where we didn't kind of force a sidewalk around the cul-de-sac bulb. There were some current concerns about snow stacking and all of that stuff. But our code never said that we could do that. So there was like maybe 3 or 4 subdivisions that were approved from like 2010 to 2014. No, 3 of those years when I didn't work here, that got approved without sidewalks in the cul-de-sac.
That answers your question.
Yeah, I think we just have like, I know of some of those situations and it looks awkward where we have homes that there's cul-de-sac sidewalks and then one that doesn't, right? And like, we need to be consistent to your point, right? Whether it's city sidewalk, residential sidewalk, cul-de-sacs, we need to follow it,
Yep.
right?
Agreed.
I can feel confident in saying that for the last 12 years, we have been consistent in new development.
Okay. Any other public input? Can I get a motion to approve the first reading as presented?
Motion.
Kelsey. Huh?
Kelsey.
All right. Motion by Porter.
Second.
Second by Borjan. Any further discussion? Halen, would you call roll?
Councilmember Borjan,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Porter,
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item A is a resolution approving a parking waiver for property at 1060 Madison Street. So back on December the 18th, council was asked to approve a parking waiver for the Dunn Industrial Condominiums. At that time, we were told that a basketball operation was going to use that facility for practices only. There were not going to be any basketball tournaments at that location, and they'd never used more than the 27 parking spaces at the site. Prior to receiving a certificate of occupancy, occupants installed flooring, put a few porta potties inside the building, held practices and had events at that location, which exceeded the 27 parking spaces. Due to this, on May 7th, council revoked their parking waiver and referred the waiver to our Planning and Zoning Commission for review. Planning and Zoning has met and decided the site needs an additional 30 parking spaces. And that can be accommodated by striping the current concrete on the south side of the building. P and Z indicated that if that happens, they would recommend granting the waiver. This waiver is based on the owners and operators' representations and agreements that the building occupancy will not exceed 215 people and parking demand will not exceed 57 spaces. This parking waiver is not an entitlement. I have the authority as mayor to temporarily revoke the parking waiver for violating the terms of this agreement. If council then determines the number of spaces doesn't meet the needs of the business, whether the business changes, parking is reduced for some reason, or other modifications affecting parking demand occur, council can revoke the waiver at council's discretion. I believe this means the revocation can happen without prior notice to the owner or operator. This is a non-industrial user operating in an industrial area. We don't want to make it hard for this business to operate, but as things build out, there could be a lot of truck traffic on Madison. The industrial users should not have to worry about navigating around a bunch of parked cars on the street, as well as people navigating to those parked cars. Finally, if council approves the waiver this evening, it does not become effective until the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. So Luke, I'll turn it over to you.
That was a very good summary, Mayor. Yep. So where we're at now, we went to P and Z with the item. Had a lot of just open discussion about different ways we could solve the parking issue. The kind of obvious, easy one, I think, is adding some striping in those loading bay areas. The plan you see before you is their full build out. They have only built out phase one, which is the northern drive, the northern building on the top of the screen, and then the kind of loop road that comes around, and then all of the paving that would be between those two buildings they've done. So they've got a lot of that paving in there. So providing more parking where those loading spaces are to the north up against the building, and then still providing drive aisle access and emergency vehicle access shouldn't be a problem. When we approved the original waiver, we kind of looked at like the space and how much parking was required for the whole space as a fully built out, and the whole space being used as a rec system. And that gave us a kind of ratio of parking stalls per occupants. And we use that kind of as a basis when we were giving our initial waiver of 27, saying, okay, do that, but we want to limit your occupancy to, I believe it was 120 persons at that point in time. Updating it to this 57 spots would update the occupant ratio to 215.
Discussion, questions from council?
We didn't have any visual proof of the event that was held with cars, extra cars. But do we know approximately?
Were there at the time? No, I don't think we know.
So I'm
There were,
thinking the difference between the spot they have now and that representation.
Sure.
Were that
So
alleviate
that's a
that
good question.
one of the things we did chat about at our P and Z meeting, one of our P and Z members actually had a daughter that was doing some cheerleading things, classes that happened to occur at that facility. So we had a little firsthand knowledge at our P and Z discussion. It sounded like, you know, one of the situations that arose, and I'm not going to say I'm going to have a solution for this, but you have, say, cheerleading going on there where you've got kids that show up throughout the week and do their practice and do that, all that stuff. At some point, those things always end. And then folks like to have a showcase or, bring everybody together to celebrate it being done, right? And I think that's likely what occurred in a situation where you had a lot of people there at once. So we had some discussions at P and Z about, is there a way to accommodate the reality of the way the building's used 90% of the time, but then also understanding that maybe 10% of the time there is a need to have more people there because you want kids to go celebrate graduating their cheerleading class or what have you, right? Or do a performance for their families. But that's the tricky thing when we do any of this stuff, right? Is when we do building review and plan review, we tend to have to look at the maximum, which would have told us of the 101 stalls and would say that 400 people can be in that space. Most of the time when they're doing trainings and stuff, you're not going to have 400 people there, but you can fit 400 people in it. And if mom and dad and grandma and grandpa come to see their kid do something, maybe you do end up with that many. So we didn't come to a solution to that at P&Z other than recognizing that it was a potential issue. 60 stalls or 57 felt like a pretty reasonable amount for getting some other stuff there with the site and kind of seeing how that worked out. Madison Street's a public street. From a development standpoint, don't have too much concern with folks deciding to park on Madison Street. I mean, that's what it's there for overflow parking. That's what all our public streets are. The tricky thing with these kind of one-time intense uses on a weekend in one of these areas is we all know, and we experienced it with our own facility before it was fully done. People park where they're going to park once they can't find a spot. Yeah. And maybe that's not too big of a deal right now, how it looks out there. But as the mayor mentioned, more industrial users show up. You start to get some friction between the people parking on the street even and people wanting to park in other people's parking stall lots and all of that. And so, it's something we definitely want to keep an eye on, I think. But I don't, unfortunately, have a good solution for you all for that specific scenario.
Mayor, I have a question. So this makes sense, right? I think the question I have is like, they get an occupancy permit and it doesn't have to even be this place, but like all of a sudden we have 400 cars here. We have 1,000 cars at the baseball facility, right? Can't hold that many. Like what happens, right? Like nothing, right?
For the baseball, for Greg Young Sports Campus, yeah, nothing happens there.
Right. So like us just taking it away, right? Like I don't know if we overreacted. I don't think so, right? Because there were a lot of cars there, but like I've been to event. I know Jason has as well. All of a sudden both parents have to drive. All of a sudden there's a ton of cars there. We didn't plan for it. It is what it is, right? And so I think to Luke's point, like we're doing the best we can here, and I think that's what we have to. And we know we're going to have incidents where there's going to be way too many cars in some situations, right? We've all been in situations, right?
I guess one thing I would note comparing it to our facility versus this scenario is understand that there's some community thought that we don't have enough parking out there. Our facility has the number of parking required by our code for what we would have. Now, that could still be not enough parking in a scenario where mom and dad both have to go because one's got to run somewhere, right? But when we do these kind of unscientific calculations of how much parking something needs, the Greg Young Sports Campus, we can confidently say, well, it met the number that we had. Whereas we didn't give ourselves a waiver for that.
I think if they would provide the number of parking spaces that require code and not ask for the waiver, I wouldn't have any problem with it.
Yep.
Because what they have.
But a little bit of it's out of their control too, right? Like, because they didn't know Jason and I and our wives were all going to we're going to take 4 cars there to that tournament or whatever happened, right? And so I'm a little bit like, yes, I want these businesses to succeed and have that.
Yes.
But also they need to do it the right way too, right? So it's a little chicken and egg here too, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, if it was represented that they were only going to have practices there.
Agree. Right.
And they had more than a practice there, so that's
Before.
before an
Well,
occupancy.
I think, yeah, most of this was generated by personal opinion, by the entry into the building with the kids before occupancy. When it was granted.
Well, and having porta potties inside.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what we've got in our house.
Yep.
I'm about ready to apply for a parking. waiver.
Luke?
Like from that big.
Plug my ears.
Any other discussion or questions from council?
If I can speak as the building owner here on Zoom.
Yeah, I'll open it up for public comment.
Jared Huseman, I'm attending via Zoom here, 1060 Madison Street, owner developer of this. What I want to kind of talk to, I think is what Jason said, I'm sorry, I'm on Zoom here, so I'm forgetting everybody's name. Andy, thank you. Is like, this was built as industrial, yes, but if you guys decide to hold us to 110 parking spaces, this whole business and this whole lease becomes invalid. And we lose we lose the whole business and a whole use. And I'm back as a developer trying to refill the space, which could be 6 months, a year, year and a half. It might even go into foreclosure, quite honestly, guys. I'm just being very honest with you. We have $20,000 a month of bills we as owners have to face every month that sits vacant. And so if we don't get a parking waiver, we are potentially back to square one. I want to also reiterate that Mayor Phillips, I think your comments were a little inaccurate because when I went to planning and zoning, and Luke, you can speak this as well. They didn't require me to add 30 more spaces to the back. I offered it because I wanted to utilize the parking we have there. I offered to build 30 more spaces, add 2 more doors because I want to have parking available for this site as well. And they agreed that was a great option. That was an option we had available to us even in the start of this whole project as well. I still will reiterate that I think that this parking waiver is different than the building occupancy permit. I understand there's building occupancy issues. I'm not denying that, but I want to reiterate that that is a separate issue, separate department, and I'm working on the parking, making this available as well. And I do think that it was a little bit knee-jerk reaction to take it away, and now we've even made it better. We've added 30 more spaces as well. If you require 110, then this building's going vacant, and honestly, we don't know how long it'll take to fill up, and we've just alienated a whole other business in Norwalk. So that's all I have. Happy to take any questions.
I just confirm with Jared, I mean, we did have a very open, collaborative discussion at P and Z, so that's correct. You know, we're talking about what could you do. He offered that up. P and Z's recommendation ultimately was do that. So yeah.
But I'll go back and say that it was represented to council that it was going to be practices only, no events, no tournaments. And then they turned around, they had an event, a tournament that required more parking than the waiver said. So
I will just reiterate,
that's where why the waiver was revoked.
and I will reiterate, Mayor. Oh. Go ahead, Mr. Mankey, if you want to speak. I'll wait.
No, I agree with the mayor. That's my recollection, exactly what the mayor said.
I just want to reiterate that as far as we know, that is still an alleged overuse of parking. There was still, it's a verbal complaint by a citizen. There was no documentation of it. There's no pictures. They didn't even know what day it was or what time it was. So is that a possibility? I'm not denying that, yes. But I still want to reiterate that it was a verbal complaint. It could have just been people there for practice parking on the street.
Well,
We don't
I
know.
also had confirmation from a P and Z member that they had an event there. So.
I'd also just add that our building officials talked with the Norwalk Athletic Club folks, and they've noted that maybe not a large event, but they did tell our building official that they'd been utilizing the space since February. So without that occupancy permit, we're still reviewing the permit actually as we speak today. So.
Any other public input? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion.
Second. Okay, so motion by Brown, seconded by Borjan. Any further discussion? Caitlin, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes.
Porter,
Yes.
Borjon,
Yes. All right, motion carries. Item 8B is a resolution approving amendments to the Central Iowa Waterworks 28E, 28F agreement. So the proposed amendments revise provisions related to board-weighted voting procedures and meeting notices. It formally recognizes the treasurer officer position. It establishes 2-year terms for committee chairs, revises the composition of the Finance and Audit Committee, and adds provisions governing the allocation of Central Iowa Waterworks tax exempt bond issuances among member agencies for federal bank qualified designation purposes. Luke Nelson, I'll turn it over to you.
I really don't have anything to add. Mayor, you did a great summary.
Thank you. Any discussion, questions from council? Any public input? Can I get a motion to approve the resolution as presented? Second. Okay, motion by Minneke, seconded by Borjan. Any further discussion? Kayla, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Minneke.
Yes.
Porter,
Yes.
Borjon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8C is a resolution approving architectural amendment in Hackney Hills Plat 1. So Plat 1 is where there is a problem with the retaining wall above a stormwater detention pond. The developer is suggesting a change to the slope above the detention pond, and this will cause a change to the look of the units that will be built above that detention pond. Council, when originally approved, wanted a uniform look along Beardsley with the front of the units facing Beardsley. I'll say the units to the east of this area look fantastic. The proposed units will look differently, but I think they look okay. Luke, I'll turn it over to you.
Yep, that's the gist of it. I'm going to give you a brief idea of what's going on. We do have the developer and their engineer here. They will be able to talk much more intelligently about the retaining wall than I can. But the main thing you need to know is we had a retaining wall for the detention basin out there. You may have been by, it kind of sunk down. They did a repair. It did the same thing again in the same spot. They spent the basically last 6 months, 8 months, studying it, trying to figure out solutions. Can they make that retaining wall work? And what they've come to is that it's likely just not worth the effort and time and money and all of that to make it work. So the solution is remove the retaining wall, create a slope back to the housing units that they had planned. The challenge with that is the retaining wall existed so that they could get grade up to that kind of first floor level of a house unit. So with this new grade slope, the detention still functions how it needs to, still does what we need to. We maintain a proper slope on that detention hill, but we end up with a walkout unit, if you will, where it's a kind of lower level front door look. So I wouldn't call it necessarily a walkout like you'd expect in a house, but kind of front door area that goes into a lower level. The garage would be on the second level coming off the back. You can kind of see there in those profile views kind of how that looks. So the 3-story view is what you would see from Beardsley. Got some architectural elements there to help it match with the ones that are already built and kind of keep that front door look that we were wanting to go for as it faced Beardsley. So from a staff perspective, what we really need to do is approve those new architectural renderings for those units. They do meet our code requirement, and we think they're meeting the intent of providing that front door look as well.
Tony, I got a question for you. So based on what you've heard and seen out at the site, if the soils there are shifting or aren't solid enough to hold up a retention wall, can you tell me how those same soils are going to hold up the weight of like a 5-plex unit that the developer's proposing?
Well, I think that's a fair question. And For me, there's two parts to that question, I guess. In general, they're certainly gonna be dealing with the same soil types, so number one, to construct these units relatively close to that failure area, I think, number one, the builders and their who's ever involved with the builder and evaluate the foundation needs to be aware of the problems that we've had, and we would expect diligence in their review of the soils, beneath these structures, and incorporate any knowledge they have from the soils and geotechnical engineer for the issues that we have in that area. So certainly they're gonna deal with the same type of soils. I think this is a little bit different. Now, we have, soil issues all over Norwalk, and even in this area, for example, in Saddle Ridge, there's homes going up, and we have builders over excavating for foundations and replacing underneath these foundations for 2 to 3 feet of structural fill to stabilize the foundations of this area. So in general, we would expect that type of diligence for these structures, even more so, for the size of these structures, of course. But the next part of that is really, are these structures within what I'll call a zone of influence from this failure area? So do we expect that failure, to be, a possibility of this, a structure to fail because of the proximity of these structures in that area? And I think that, and so that's a possibility. I'm enough removed from this that, I can't answer that, with any certainty, but I will say there's a difference in the failure of that wall and the structural support of the underlying soils that support a structure like this. And that's that the soil, that retaining wall, the soils below that retaining wall that are supported in that retaining wall are at a steep angle down to this detention base. And so when I first went out and looked at this retaining wall, I expected to see the thing bowed out and retaining wall blocks falling over because of the lateral soil pressures against the walls after a large rain event. That didn't happen. In a lot of ways, the retaining walls really didn't fail. What failed is the underlying supporting soils for some reason that I really don't know. I'd be speculating, why that occurred. Maybe an underlying condition related to groundwater movement, something like that. But those soils have a steep angle. All soils have what we call an angle of repose, and that's the steepest angle where those soils can stay stable. And that depends on the soil type, friction of the soils, the cohesiveness of the soils, the weight of the soils, saturated with water, lots of factors like that. So once you start reaching that close to that maximum angle that those soils can support, you can have sloughing or a slip plane that creates. And that when you look at that front of the wall, you can see those soils in front of that wall slip. So that kind of functions as a unit. And when those soils, this arm kind of represent that steep slope and this being the retaining wall, as that soil starts sliding, it pulled the wall down vertically. Now, I don't know for sure with any degree of certainty why that happened, but that's different than a confined soil bearing that these structures are going to see. So I would be a little bit concerned with these being within a zone of influence. What I mean by that is the way that the structure, it's supported by the foundation of the structure, and how those loads are distributed into the soils below. And so those are typically distributed on an angle down, so they need to be far enough away so that if they're not within this zone of influence by this failure. And that could extend further back to the south, we don't know. So the short answer is we would expect diligence in review of the soils for these structures, because the failures that we see close to them.
Okay. You want to answer the question too?
Yeah.
Well, while Paul jumps up there, go ahead, Paul. We do, as part of permitting, like we just require a geotechnical report of every building site in town. So that's just part of what we require to make sure that they're, because of our soils, evaluating what they need to do. Every structure will have that done. So this will have that done as well. We don't do an engineering review of that, but we rely on them to hire an engineer to make sure that the structures they're building can be accommodated under the soil conditions.
Awesome. Paul Clausen, Civil Engineering Consultants, 2400 86th Street, Urbandale, Iowa. Tony's exactly right. So for months now, we've had several geotechnical engineers looking at the slope stability here. And the best we can tell is that to get these units where they were, and they were placed where they were, and there was no basements for two reasons. Sanitary sewer depth, we couldn't service a basement, and the developer didn't have any basement units that they had to put here. So with that being said, we built up the elevations 20 feet, so we put 20 feet of fill over the existing soils. And there was shale underlying that area, pretty common in this area. So when the groundwater runs across the shale, that creates a slip face, so it could not support that 20 foot of fill. What these basement units are gonna do, it's gonna remove 12 foot of that fill. And we've had the geotechnical engineers give us a factor of safety that they find adequate for these units on that slope.
Right. Thank you.
But yeah, there's been a lot of looking into and investigating this area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, discussion question. No? Oh, I'll get to you in a second.
Sorry, yeah,
Go
any
ahead.
other questions right now?
Yeah.
So as it's been stated, the front facing the street, so it looks nice. I'm confused by that one picture we had on before. It looks like there's two sets of, that one. Is that,
Oh, that's just the
Two
different
side-
elevations, yeah.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
All right,
exactly.
I'm good.
Anything else? I think that's good.
Thank you very much.
Jennifer Ellison, Jerry's Homes, 3900 West Town Parkway, West Des Moines. Mayor Phillips and council, thank you for your attention on this matter this evening. As has been mentioned, we did work on getting a second opinion. We want to do the right thing. We want this to be a successful development. It's taken way longer than we ever thought. But we did a lot of investigation. We've got a geotech team that's been working with us, and this is our best option moving forward. They're certain of it, or they wouldn't allow us to do it. They will be a part of our team as we move forward with the grading and construction. There's some additional tiling that will be required just to make sure there's proper drainage around the basements. And we also will be over excavating down to the stable soils where it slid. So there's going to be some additional work done to that area as well.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions from council or discussion or public input? Anybody want to make a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
Motion.
A motion by Borjon, seconded by Meineke. Any further discussion? Kaylin, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Porter,
Yes.
Borjon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Meineke,
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Yep. Item 8D is resolution approving the site plan for 729 Main Street. So Fairway Franks would like to add a sunshade over their outside seating area, which requires a change to the site plan. Just as an aside, I didn't know Fairway Franks had outside seating, so I will be using that in the future. But Luke, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a lot of details. That picture up there is not Fairway Franks.
Yeah.
It is just an example of the type of sunshade. Little silly, we think, from a staff perspective, that it ends up being a site plan amendment, but we ran it through all of our tests and it did. Essentially, structurally, all you're doing is putting up a couple poles and then stringing this canvas across. We don't have an issue with it. Doesn't really violate anything zoning wise. So be a nice, good shade structure for people hanging out on that patio.
Which I will be utilizing. at some point.
I do have one, like, I've actually gone in the back door as we went over there afterwards. Like, if they're doing work on that and the deck or stairs, like, are they at code? That would be my only question. Like, if they're doing this, do they need to make sure that's all good?
I will check with our building official. I don't think so because they're not making a change to the deck. And I
But it
don't.
feels like they're doing this work to use that structure. I want that structure to be safe and good, right? So, that makes sense?
Yeah, I totally understand. I don't know our ability to require that upgrade as it being an existing structure that was, I'm assuming, used by Pyra Pizza as well. So typically when something exists, it's allowed to continue to be used. But I will certainly this hasn't gotten to our building official yet, so.
But if you're kind of upgrading that, I don't know if these poles are attached to the deck and other things that are on there, right? But if you're doing that work, I feel like we want that work to be safe. Like I'm a frequenter of there, it's a great place, but like, let's make sure it's safe as they're doing this work.
If I may, I just sent a message to the fire marshal to make sure they know, because I know that they did take special interest in the sunshades at Cooper's to make sure that they are rated properly and all of that stuff. So I would assume that there is going to be some level of oversight here from buildings and fire for this addition.
Motion.
One second. Motion by Meineke, seconded by Brown. Any public input? Or further discussion from council? Kaylin, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Meineke,
Yes.
Porter,
Yes.
Borjon,
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8E is resolution approving the site plan of Main Street School. So at our last meeting, council approved the final reading of an ordinance regarding some exceptions to yard requirements. This project is the reason we realized the ordinance needed amending. The school is going to add some footpaths and egress structures on the south side of the building. Luke, I'll turn it over to you.
Yep. So that's really why we did that zoning amendment recently. So this is just the next step of that, of making sure that that building has the proper life safety features to be able to be utilized for a school. And that is the addition of this fire escape structure. So with the new zoning change, it is compliant.
Questions from council or public input? I get a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion by Porter, seconded by Brown. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Kaylin, would you call roll?
Councilmember Borjon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Meineke,
Yes.
Porter, yes.
Motion carries. Item 8F is a resolution of repealing the Norwalk Community School District building permit waiver policy. So in November of 2018, City Council discussed creating a policy around waiving building permit fees for the school district. At this point, staff is requesting a repeal of that policy. So Luke, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, just, as we've done our reviews of the things the city provides to different organizations and things, we wanted to bring this permit waiver policy back. We adopted that in 2019 to give some waivers to some school projects to kind of help them out. The idea being that, good schools are good for Norwalk, and that's still true today. But with our building permits, every permit we issue, the cost is supposed to cover our ability to do the work. So by not charging permits for a school, which we do spend a significant amount of time in a large project like that, we're really just kind of spreading that cost across other permits, which we really shouldn't be doing. So what we're requesting here is to pull that waiver policy back and just charge the school typical permit fees as we would anybody else on their upcoming projects. We have waived around $150,000 in permit fees in the last 6 years since we enacted the policy, and spent about that much staff effort and time inspecting those. So I'm happy to take any questions. We did, Luke Nelson, city manager, did have meetings with Sean Holloway, who was here earlier, talked through it. They understood the city's perspective on it, or staff perspective anyway. And they were fine with proceeding with that policy. I'll let Luke add anything else that he might want to.
I think that was a good explanation. Thanks, Luke.
I just thought of this question, so sorry, I'm surprising you with it. What do other communities do?
I didn't look at that as part of this thing, so I don't have a clear answer for you today in 2026. In the past, there was about a 50-50, but it seemed like most were trending to charging their school district. And a lot of it depended on kind of what the school district encompasses. I mean, the other way to think about it is the school district's taxpayers aren't just Norwalk taxpayers, right? They're county taxpayers, they're Cumming taxpayers, and West Des Moines taxpayers. But when we waive a Norwalk service for that, we're kind of putting that burden back just on our taxpayers. So in a way, this kind of helps redistribute that back out to all of the folks that benefit from those new schools being built and those improvements being made.
And, you know, with recent legislation.
Yeah,
With
gonna
property
say.
tax policy,
We're just having to think about that stuff.
Yep. Yep. And as we heard this evening, lots of
Yeah.
exciting school work to be done, and we're certainly
That we
good
can make
partners
a
with the
lot of
school.
money on.
Yep.
Luke, what do we do? What do we do for
What does that
ourselves?
cost? No, I'm kidding.
cover our costs.
That's all we can do. is
What do we do
cover
for
costs.
ourselves?
We've charged permit fees before in the past and then like just transferred dollars from a department, right? We've done that on our big projects. I don't know that we've done that on smaller work. Like when we've had electrical work that's need to be done, we still permit them so that we can have record of the stuff that we've done to our buildings and everything. But as far as,
I know it's kind of a shell game, right? But it feels like we're saying now, school, you gotta pay them. Like we should make ourselves pay them, whether it's sports complex, library, et cetera.
right,
Right? And it's just, everybody pays them if we have to move the shells around.
right,
It's just,
right.
we're doing it, right?
Yeah. Correct.
All right, other discussion, questions from council or public input? I get a motion to approve resolution as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Borjon, seconded by Brown. Any further discussion? Kalen, would you please call a roll?
Councilmember Meineke,
Yes.
Porter,
Yes.
Borjon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8G, it's a resolution approving the preliminary plat of Rosewood Estates. So Rosewood Estates is a development area south on R63, just to the south of the North River. So the original plat was approved the year Brian Baker graduated from high school, 1979. Luke, I'll turn that over to you.
Wow.
I was gonna say me, but since you're here, I thought I'd target you.
Okay, so Rosewood Estates, we had a comp plan amendment wall to contemplate, was this something we were gonna let go through? We did end up changing that to single family from a medium density and a kind of commercial flex space. So the developers proceeded with developing a plat. They've got their, I think, 43 lots here. We did have some discussions at P&Z, primarily related to kind of two different options. As part of a development that's outside of the city, when we do this thing, we can require the development to follow city standards. And one of our things for city standards says when you don't have access to sewer, we want you to install a dry sewer, with the idea being that we're eventually going to be there and we'll have sewer there. And then we want to be able to connect up your dry sewer. So in talking with the developer, and I believe they mentioned to you all during the comp plan process that they were willing to put that in and to follow our standards and everything. They did ask that they be allowed to flex that expense, and they felt like it would be better utilized for their development to install a curb and gutter street, a typical urban street section, and just provide easements and assessment agreements for a future sewer. Our code provides us the ability to give a waiver for that. It actually comes down to our city engineer and myself. It's kind of how we feel about that. So really what we hinged on was, what's the serviceability of this? Like, can we actually get sewer here? There is the North River Sewer Interceptor, the one that we're extending as part of our industrial work, runs north of this area. There's a good stretch amount of sewer that would be needed to bring it down to this area, and it would have to cross underneath the river. There's fancy siphon technology that Tony can tell you more about if you really want to know. But what you have to understand essentially is you'd put a crossing underneath the river, and that crossing would have to have flow in the pipe from this development to be able to function, right? It's like flushing a toilet. It won't flush unless you put enough water in it. And so the engineer, we asked them to go back and do an analysis of that, tell us, can you do it? Will it work? And their review of that was based on those 43 homes. Wouldn't it create enough volume to make that work? So the ability to serve it via gravity is a huge question mark. There's always the ability to put in a lift station, though. We've explored that idea in the past in other areas. We know that they're continual maintenance things, maybe not a long-term solution that we want to do. I know Public Works tends to not be a fan of them either. So there's a question as to whether or not we would ever serve this area if we annexed it, with it being developed this way. So we just kind of put these options out there to Planning and Zoning Commission, talked about the pros and cons of them. I'll run through those real quick. Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend not requiring the dry sewer and proceeding with curb and gutter. They felt like that would create a better development, and they felt like that dry sewer might be something that just sat in perpetuity, and there was really never a benefit to it. So pros of doing the dry sewer in a rural cross section. Again, all these would be private streets, so we would expect the city not to take ownership of them at some point in the future. But requiring that dry sewer, that follows the intent of our code as it regards to the scenario. So it's the black and white thing to do. That's what we require. That's the black and white of it. It would be in the ground, and if we ever did decide to do it, annexation of this area and it coming into the cities is likely not going to be in the time frame of any of us being on council and development directors and public works directors and everything. So those people might have different opinions about the viability and the purpose of bringing that into the city. So having a dry sewer there would let it be served. And it makes that decision to annex it a little bit easier, right? Because you know that you don't have an expense. Even with easements and annex and assessment agreements, you still have to go and install a sewer through somebody's yard, right? So again, the cons of that though is it doesn't look like it can be served very easily. And probably the best way to serve it would be a lift station, which we don't tend to like to have right now. Not putting it in lets them make a urban cross-section road, which is a little bit nicer look, a little bit more formal of a neighborhood, probably increases the value of the homes. We do have that option again to waive it. And again, there'd be assessment agreements put in place at the final plating stage where each person that owned one of those properties would agree to saying, I'll be assessed for a sewer if the city ever puts it in. So we would know that would be a thing we could do. The practical realities of that, right, would be 40 years from now, we go to those folks and say, guess what? Here's your bill for the sewer. Why didn't you make them install it in 2026, right? Why didn't the city do that? Why didn't it, and so there'll always be that nickel and diming of all of that. People will use those yards as they see fit. There's no city there to review what they're putting in their easements or not. So there'll be trees planted in them. There will be sheds put in them and playgrounds and swimming pools and things that could be problematic, which again, we would have the right to install that sewer there, but the practical realities of it get tricky. So at the end of the day, we discussed all that stuff, had a good discussion at P&Z. They ultimately recommended proceeding without the dry sewer, having that assessment agreement in the abstracts, and going to an urban cross-section road. I think under either situation as it stands today in 2026, with there being a rural subdivision happening here, the likelihood of the city deciding to annex that, I would say my opinion would be we don't touch that until we surround it. There's several developments in and around Norwalk that are that way right now. And so this would be another one of those. It's frankly probably the farthest one away, but those are areas that we want to try and stay away from. Regardless of what we do there, there'll be 43 homes out there that'll get mad at the city for whatever we decide to do near them. So
So
that'll be a fun thing.
Wayne or Tony, does dry sewer besides future sewer pipe provide any benefit? Like, I know we talked a lot about sprinkler systems and road problems, but it doesn't help with any of those. It's truly just for when that happens, it's there for it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And I think Luke gave a good summary. And so, yeah, I really struggle with just the black and white requiring a dry sewer in an area outside the city within our planning area. When you consider, and so it's something that I like to look at in detail. And these homeowners today are gonna have to put in an on-site treatment system that's gonna cost $15,000 to $20,000 somewhere in that price range. So they already got that expense. Adding a dry sewer through the yard is gonna, probably double that or more for something that we may or may never use, may not be connected. So I think it's important for us to look at an area like this and not just, the information that Luke provided, but look in general, what's the chance of us wanting to extend the sewer across that challenging area across the river? And what else can it serve besides these 42, 43 homes? So when I look at the potential service area of a trunk sewer extended across there, first of all, it's not very big. And second of all, most of that area, the service area, is already developed in real estate lots in that area. And so we'd have the same challenges in serving all of those areas. But so it's really tough for me. I would say, I don't, have a clear answer or recommendation one way or the other. I support P and Z's recommendation, I would say, but I think in general, overall, I think, with I think this would be the first time we've had inquiries maybe, but it would be the first time we've ever required dry sewers. We've had some county developments in our planning area that we don't have dry sewer. But I think
I need to jump in and clarify something. Tony, we've explained to you before, that's not true. There are other situations where there were proposed developments, and because the city was going to require dry sewers, those developments did not proceed.
right, and that's what I said, Luke. I said we've had inquiries about that for potential developments. Apparently, I've never been involved in any of those discussions, so I have to agree with what Luke said. And that for whatever reason those developments didn't go forward, whether that was because of the cost of dry sewers or some other reason, I don't know. But we have not installed dry sewers in Norwalk or within our planning area. I should say, so that in areas we can't serve. But that doesn't mean that in itself doesn't mean that we should. As I said, I struggle with this, but I think it's important for us to look at all those different situations and the potential of us wanting to serve that, wanting to annex that in Reed City, what else it could serve, because there's a cost of extending that, a trunk sewer and some challenges with that. And challenges with certain areas beyond this development itself.
A question, Luke. Are some of these developments that we're trying to stay away from? Are they in our comprehensive plan?
Yeah, so
Like this is.
right, something that's existing would be shown, like Twin Lakes.
Yeah.
Great, it shown as a rural estates project in our comprehensive plan. We're not showing that we're changing it per our comprehensive plan. But just the reality of, should the city take Twin Lakes into the city, certainly we wouldn't want to take ownership of the roads. Do they want to be in the city, right? Like, there's just, you usually wouldn't go about that until you just fully encompass them. And that's a little bit of a change from how cities have annexed in the past. But I just think, more and more we're not seeing the return that we would want over bringing on 18 homes in Twin Lakes to become in part of Norwalk. And the same thing, I think, when we got out here, unless we surrounded it with development, I don't see a whole lot of compelling reason why we would want to annex them in.
What I was getting at, are we better off just to say, we'll change our comprehensive plan, but just leave it out of our comprehensive plan?
Oh, in the future?
We'll just pull it back, yeah.
Right, yeah. So with comprehensive planning and you're doing those land use plannings, it's not bad to include that stuff because you want to understand what's going to happen in areas. So even if you don't think you're necessarily going to grow in some areas, you want to be able to understand what's going to happen because that might influence a transportation corridor you're doing. When we go, our focus southeast is a great example, or southwest. We plan for some areas that are probably going to end up incoming, but to understand like what that could be kind of influenced the rest of the comprehensive plan for what Norwalk could be. So.
And then when you talk about the urban cross-section streets, same street as being put in at Saddle Ridge. Is that
Yes.
same thing?
Yep.
All are
Yep. Curb gutter, storm sewer, no ditch. Oh, so rural cross section would be, ditches to handle your stormwater and all of that, and no shoulder, and just a shoulder instead of a curb.
The new Saddle Ridge will have subdrain and subbase.
Yeah. Oh, the newer section of it.
Correct.
Okay. So
I think when we
this will
talk-
have the same thing.
I'm sorry.
This development will have that subdrain and.
No, and that was one of the more concerning points was, and I think their intent then is to label them private streets. I think I wanted something I mentioned to Paris to include some language that reconstruction of these roads will not be city of Norwalk responsibility. They're private streets, they're not built to our standards. Cause I think even curb and gutter is our current standard. And then with subbase and subdrain, so. I'm just being consistent. I think those are very important items. I've told you that several times.
Right. And so you'll see this again as a final plat. So a lot of things we've talked about, like if we go with a assessment agreement, like those will be conditions that we'll see with the final plating documents.
So that would be recorded and put in the abstracts for each property to say that if the easements will be in there, as well as indicating that if they ever want sanitary sewer, it will be an assessment project on their shoulders.
Correct.
Not for the rest of the city of Norwalk.
That's the idea.
I'm ready.
On that.
And they're private streets that weren't built to our standard at the time. And therefore, we're not gonna replace the streets.
So what I saw, one thing that I saw, and this is not related to dry sewer, is that there's no real stormwater detention or stormwater management in this preliminary plat. Is that right?
Correct. I'll let Brad speak a little bit more to that. As we were working through things, we had a couple different options and they were working through putting together some stormwater calculations and everything for us. And so we don't have those fully available tonight. So we would certainly want to see those before we turn loose construction on anything.
You want to see those before you allow them to start construction.
Right.
So if the engineering shows that there's going to be a detention pond needed where you currently have a street planned.
So you could do a couple things. One, if you approve a prelim plat and that happens, then we're doing a prelim plat amendment and we're back here looking at this saying, oh, we have a detention basin there. You could just say, we want to see it back with the detention basin in it. And approve this tonight with the curb and gutter and dry sewer with the condition that they bring back the finalized version for the council stamp. You could do that too. You could approve it with a condition that they give that information to staff and we put the city stamp on it when it's time. So there's a couple different options for how to proceed with that. But thank you for catching that because I was so focused on the dry sewer.
Yeah, that's good.
Address that a little bit if you want to.
Yeah, please do.
Brian Cooper, Cooper Crawford Associates. Yeah, we did as much, we tried as hard as we could to get as much done since P and Z decided to go with this route with the curb and gutter and the storm sewer versus the dry sewer. We do intend on having some ponds, not necessarily detention ponds, but sediment ponds. This is also going through the county at the same time we're doing this. And they have kind of some heartburn in messing with their floodplain zoning area. So our intention is there's a couple areas that are out of the floodplain, yet it's in their zoning area, but it's ideal spots to put sediment basins and detention ponds if we end up having a detention pond. But we're required to have a sediment pond by our DNR grading permit. So we will incorporate that in there. It looks like a not very big subdivision, but that's a very large subdivision when you consider all 42 lots are at least 2-acre lots. So we do feel like this will be a really nice amenity to have the curb and gutter and the storm sewer. It's really not saving Dan any money. We thought there might be some savings, maybe 100 to 125,000. At P and Z, he actually had offered to donate that type of money to the Norwalk Parks Department to apply towards parks, especially since one of the parks he donated during Timberview is still sitting, undeveloped. He'd like to see something done with that, but they did not. P and Z didn't recommend that he have to contribute that, but I believe that's something he intends to do.
Normally we do charge for that, don't we? And we don't charge for it in this case because it's not in the city. Is that the reason?
Correct, for parks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the council seems like it's always been the last 10 or 15 years really big on getting land instead of getting money to spend on the parks. Our Blooming Heights 5, they actually took money in lieu of park space. So
Much less than 125,000.
yeah, but
I like that.
yeah, he's intent on giving a nice donation to parks.
So just a couple things on that. Right, because it's outside of, like, we want to accept a park donation as part of parkland dedication for a subdivision outside of city limits. So there's that side of it. The discussion wasn't had at P and Z. We recommended that P and Z just make a recommendation on the prelim plat. One of the things that we have to be careful with is what the city is requiring in parkland things. And like, we can't tell a developer, you have to give us money, right? So if they want to do that, like that's something we can do and explore. I talked with Jim a little bit about this as well. We just, as part of approving the prelim plat, it should probably just be focused on the prelim plat. And then if there's other agreements or other things related to this park donation, that can be handled separately.
I also wanted to touch base on the streets.
Yeah.
Basically what we're proposing is to build the streets just like the streets in Timberview, like I live on. I know your development out there, it was designed and built at a time when the standards were less, especially when it comes to private roads. Our streets we're proposing are going to be the same exact design as what we put in Timberview or all of Blooming Heights. So they are up to not today's standard for the city, but also the city contributes money to be applied to this rock subbase that's going in currently. So like Blooming Heights, the city's paying for that rock. If that was to happen in this plat, paying for rock under pavement that's not in the city. So it'd be a little unusual, I guess. But I'm confident the streets are going to be fine, built just like the ones we've done in Timberview and everywhere else in Norwalk prior to the new ordinance.
I guess I thought when we talked about that last time, the streets were gonna be built to our today's standards, so what William said surprises me. Is it better use of your funds to not donate them to parkland and to make them be, and then would they not be classified as private roads? And it's probably way more than $125,000, right, to do that, I'm sure. Right?
It will be private roads no matter what. The county will not take the roads.
Yeah. But I guess the only, like, I get the county wouldn't take them, but if we were ever to annex them and they were built to our specs, I thought the conversations that we were having around roads was, then if they were built to our specs, if we were to annex them, then we would take over them. Is that not what we said?
I don't know that it's a we would take over them, but if we did take over them, we would know that they met our, they were built to our standard, right? So you feel more comfortable taking over that road and taking on its maintenance. Whereas, right, I think a lot of the Lakewood projects that we've been doing, where we took on those roads that were built as Lakewood, and then we feel a responsibility to upgrade them to get them in better condition. So we have this improvement program that we've been working through the roads in Lakewood to help revitalize them.
Since there's no throughway there, even if we annex them, they could stay private.
But I thought, like, maybe not lessons in general, but like, I thought we talked about if we have these rural developments and eventually we grow and want to take them over, don't we want them to meet our standards? I guess that's all I'm trying to say.
Okay. Other questions from council? Any other public input? Anybody want to make a motion to approve that resolution? Second. Okay, motion by Porter, seconded by Borjan. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Halen, would you call roll?
Councilmember Porter,
Yes.
Borjan,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Meineke,
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Item 9, future agenda items. So the purpose for this is for council to give direction to staff by way of motion to have items placed on a future agenda. It's not for discussion of the merits of the subject matter. It's to get it on to an agenda so we can discuss the merits. Any future agenda items for tonight? I think we were, remind me if I'm wrong, I think we were originally going to talk about golf carts tonight, but since we expected there was only going to be 3 here, we decided, nah, we're not gonna put it on the agenda. Same thing with e-bikes and e-bike ordinance. What do you think we want
We had a big discussion at MPO tonight.
about e-bikes?
Uh-huh.
Well, you can tell it to us here in just a moment. All right. Any other? Okay, hearing none. Item 10, council queries and staff updates. Like to remind everybody that this is a less informal portion of the meeting. You may hear some back and forth banter and general joking around. We believe this can build camaraderie and cohesiveness between staff. Hey, Jim, are you there?
I am here.
You got anything?
No, hello from Whitefish, Montana is where I'm at right now. But no, I have nothing for the meeting.
Did you have to go up to a top of a hill to get cell service?
I am. I'm on the top of the ski slope mountain right now.
Interesting. All right. Well,
Yep.
have fun.
Okay, thanks.
Kelsey.
Oh, wait, no, I know.
No, it's just.
Yeah, that's why we go on do it this way.
Uh-huh.
I just, DC with the partnership was incredible. It was an amazing experience. I'm very appreciative to have gone. Learned a ton, experienced a ton, had so much fun, possibly the most fun ever. Learned a lot about some of our staff members, which was fun, kind of living with them these couple days.
Yeah.
You always learn more about people. Luke might be one of them unluckiest people I've ever met.
I don't know why you would think that.
Just we swapped some more stories, and Hollis can last longer in heels and farther in heels than anyone I've ever seen in my life. It was a great trip, and I feel like we got a lot accomplished. So thank you.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to also talk to some of the other cities away from the normal hustle and bustle of here.
Yeah.
Which is good.
It's cool. There's a couple business leaders there as well that are actually residents of Norwalk, but you know, where they're representing companies in other areas. So that was cool.
Yeah.
Nice to face with them, even though they're there for a different purpose.
Good. All right. Jason.
So a lot of communities are taking action
On
related
e-bikes.
to, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it seemed like some MPO member communities were hoping for MPO to take some leadership in putting together model legislation, but Plexa has really taken leadership to put together model legislation. I think the majority of the communities represented at MPO were just thinking, why do we need MPO to create model legislation when another organization has put it out there and communities are already acting on it? But it was the liveliest discussion I've been a part of. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, we've got some communities that have gone before us in this that I think we can learn from. I assume we are learning from as we put this together.
So, and for anybody who wanted to know, Plexa is the police chiefs around around the metro.
Yeah. So if there wasn't any leadership around this issue, MPO might step in. There is leadership.
Yeah, I know Mac was also talking about doing some model events as
Yeah.
well, but Plexa came up with at Mac, Metro Advisory Council,
Yeah.
letting Plexa do it. So, yeah. And anything else?
No.
Nothing, just that I won't be at the next council meeting, and I hope that Jim hopping on from Montana does not set expectations for me to wake up at 3 a.m. Italy time to be at this meeting. So
No.
I hope so too.
No. Wayne?
Thank you, Mayor. The water, update on the water conservation status. Holly's been really busy with our water department. They've issued 140 notification letters. We've had 100% compliance. Once the letters are received, we have not had to do shut-offs, which is great. We've had a great response, and that's trends with the rest of the communities served by the fluid treatment plant. They sent out an update. Compared to this time last year when we were also in water conservation, we're using less water. So the fluid treatment plant is operating within an adequate range right now. People have been being great about not irrigating. So thank your neighbors.
Yes.
Wayne, is there any trend to if that's gonna draw itself back and allow usage, or have we heard anything in that regard?
Nitrate levels are still pretty high in the source waters.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think the last round of storms went north, which is gonna flush a bunch down our way, so, yeah.
thank you.
Chief?
I have nothing tonight. I just want to thank you again, Mayor, for the proclamation. That really meant a lot to our department. So thank you.
Good, yep. Tony?
Nothing for me tonight, just, besides the, water tower progress, I guess, the column walls on the water tower are a little over halfway up, so, so progress is going well.
Cool, thanks. Chief?
So last night, there was a fireworks stand, had the fireworks in a trailer in Des Moines that was broken into. And then also last night, the trailer parked at the old fairway that contained fireworks for the fireworks tent that will be going up there, was in the process of being broken into, and the suspects were scared off. And the midnight officers, Officers Newman and Sergeant Lewiston, were able to track down and identify the suspects and solved our attempted break-in of the trailer and Des Moines theft of fireworks. So one more time, Norwalk officers solved the Metro's crime problems. Happens more often than you think. Yes. Well, investigation is still continuing, but there were fireworks in the truck that we found that belonged to the suspects for the Norwalk. And there were no fireworks stolen from Norwalk because they didn't get in the trailer. So more to come on that, charges to be placed later. As you know, if you call the police will come, and sometimes they'll write a report. Not every police call generates a police report. When a police report is issued, that's an indication that the call was more of a more serious nature. Year to date, we've had a 21% increase in police reports from 2025, and comparing the month of May 2025 to the month of May 2026, there was a 34% in police calls for service. So as the trend is continuing, our calls and our police reports are on the increase, and I don't see it slowing down. And then lastly, you may have seen on our social media, boasting that the Assistant Chief Kirk Westfold has announced his retirement and his last day with the city on July 1st. It's a Wednesday. He has a retirement reception at the Public Safety Building from 2 to 4 that day. Everybody's welcome. He told me he was considering retiring back a little while ago and thought July 2nd would be his last day. And I said, come on, July 3rd is Friday. You don't want to work on Friday? And then I gave him one more opportunity to work the July 4th parade, and declined. And I think out of spite, he said, I'm leaving on July 1st. So that's all I have.
Chief, when you look at those numbers up in reports, like, do you have like classifications? Is it domestics? Is it break-ins? Is it like, kind of?
We are high in assaults with no rhyme or reason as to why. And then everything else is just generally increased.
Yeah, okay.
That's all.
Great, thank you. Gene Strabel,
No report, thank you.
Carissa.
Just as we head into National Parks and Recreation Month, our department's in full swing and great things happening everywhere, but the aquatic center is up and running, which is always a big undertaking. So we are glad to see that happening, and thank you for your support of our department.
Andy.
Nothing.
George.
Really nothing, but I'm impressed with the sitting in the chair playing volleyball.
Oh, pure volleyball. Yes, come join us.
I heard that was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Looks like it.
We've had good numbers for 3 weeks now. We've been going. So
Yeah.
come join us on Tuesday mornings.
Okay.
All right. Lindsay. Luke.
I do have one thing, Mayor. The Rosewood development, I've been pretty quiet in conversations about that, but I want to make sure that Mayor, you and council understand that at some point in time in the future, I think it'll be good for us to revisit the general topic of subdivisions being developed outside of corporate limits. I think that Rosewood is a completely unique situation because it was previously platted, which is a big reason why I've been so quiet about it. But I feel very strongly that the city has to be very attentive to watching what happens outside corporate limits. It's one thing that can really impact our future growth pattern. So just kind of an FYI that I'll probably be asking some of you folks to consider a work session in the future to take a little bit deeper dive and make sure we're all on the same page.
Cool. All right.
So I actually have a question there, because I was actually looking at the map the other day and I was kind of interested in this. So like we talked about that Rosewood, and then next to that, there's already a lot of like multi-acre estate houses, so we can't really grow much there. Do we have, like, I'm looking at Luke, do we have a sense for where we could have these close like hotspots that we would want to be able to look at and think about? Or is that something we want to put together that we would understand where those could happen?
Yeah, so the short work session that Luke Nelson says we should do, which we probably should do a bigger thing, is there's not a real concern about something like Rosewood happening, because that I've already looked. There's not another subdivision that was done 40 some years ago that would lend it to that thing. Luke mentioned earlier that we have told people to do dry sewer. Dry sewer and urban cross-section roads, when we tell people that come to us and say, hey, we want to put 10 lots out here, that usually makes it not financially viable for them to do that. So that's a big tool in our arsenal to not end up having those things happen outside of town. So there's a lot of things that you guys don't see because it never gets to council level that we as staff are saying, these are things you've got to do. And then it just, okay, well, we're not going to look at doing that.
But like, I guess my example is that was 44 lots at roughly 2 acres. So about 100 acres, right? Like, do we know where we have, and maybe 40 is not the right number, but 60 contiguous acres where like somebody could be wanting to do a rural estate that's within our halo, so to say?
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, anywhere that there's not already that, there will be some pressure from folks to want to do that.
I think it would just be good for council to see
Yeah.
kind of a picture of what that looks
Yeah,
like.
we can map that out. When we have that work session, we'll put that together.
Yeah.
It's really not that different from the work that we did when we were looking at annexing out to the interstate.
Right.
We were looking at large chunks of undeveloped ground that didn't have homes on them because we can say, let's preserve those for the growth that we think Norwalk should have. And ideally, that provides better value for those folks, because if you've got the choice between selling your land for industrial versus for rural estate homes, there's a pretty significant difference in the value per acre of those.
I can tell you that Timber Ridge, I think, is 80 acres deep. Is an 80-acre area. They only developed the north 40 of that because that is sewerable by gravity. And we were going to require them to either put in dry sewer or put in their own lift station, pump it, and they didn't want to do that.
Right. We had a 140 acre or 140 home subdivision proposed off of 50th outside of town, and did the same thing, and that got squashed. So
Anything else, Luke?
Nothing else, Mayor. Thank you.
Hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Yeah, just as an FYI to council, don't get alarmed here. I hate when I hear that the city doesn't plan very much. You know, the city doesn't do any planning, blah, blah, blah. So I'm gonna let people know as we do planning. As far as we're in stage 3 of our water use plan right now. We have started just so that we know and we are prepared if it ever happens. And I don't think it's going to, but if we go to stage 4, we're starting to talk about what's that actually going to look like. So I just want people to know that we are planning this out. Not going to be off the cuff. Okay. That's all I got. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. Motion by Mike, seconded by Borjan. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, same. We're adjourned, 7:59.
We need to plan about stage.
We need to spread them out.
Yeah.
to do. I'm sorry that you guys only ever like